host, Kabir Sehgal. Pleasure to be back. Coming to you live from the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. This is like show number 131. We broadcast from home. So, Mom, thanks for watching, but I need you to get off the Wi-Fi so we can use a full bandwidth here. We bring you this broadcast. We've been doing it since March. And we've put the spotlight on musicians, artists, filmmakers. These are the people that create the content that provoke, entertain, and challenges throughout the year. So if you want to be in the loop with who's coming on the show, obviously subscribe to my social media. You'll be the first to be notified as to who's appearing and when. And if you want to get on the show, hit me up through my social media channels as well, and we will look into that. So with that, that's kind of the point of the show. And if you have questions, drop a question in the comment field. I'll put it up on the screen, and we'll have the artist opine. And let us know where you're watching from. Even if you don't watch live, if you're watching on the rebroadcast, please let us know. Cities, states, countries. We love to know counties. I'm trying to learn the geography of the world. So put your county, extra points for counties, and let us know. With that, we have a very, very special show today, and a remarkable film that you may have seen. It's been on Netflix. Very talented filmmakers. It seems like a very creative, dynamic duo, and I'm excited to bring them in. They're one of the most, two of the most fascinating artists we've had on this film to date. And it's a great honor to speak with them because they're not just artists and authors and sound people, and they're conceptual artists, and I think they're creative geniuses in a way. So please welcome to the broadcast of the Quarantine Film Series, Nicole Newnham and Jim Lebrecht. Welcome. Let's take you guys off mute.
Hi.
Hi there. Welcome to the show. So first, I want to ask you both. Let me go to you first, Nicole. How has the quarantine impacted you? What did you have lined up, especially with this film that's been canceled or postponed?
Well, the quarantine impacted us a lot with Crip Camp. We were actually supposed to hit theaters about a week before the world sort of shut down. And we were going to be traveling. We had a European tour planned. We were going to lots of festivals, and we had started screening the film, and it was just like, playing like a house on fire with audiences. We were having standing ovations and really emotional, beautiful screenings. So that was unfortunate, but we have discovered a real silver lining to the way that we've been able to engage audiences with the film online and kind of build community in really surprising ways. So, I think it's been also a period where a lot of people in the industry are taking a look at how we can shift power dynamics and how we can, center the storytelling and leadership of people of color and marginalized people in our own industry. So it's been great to be able to have the time to focus on that too.
Right. I want to ask you also, tell me, how has the quarantine impacted you personally? Meaning, do you have a day-to-day schedule? How do you maintain creativity while we're sort of locked down? Do you wake up at the same time? Do you have a routine? Maybe Jim, you can take that one.
Yeah, well, I'm probably, the bad example of what to do during a pandemic, because my sleep schedule's been kind of all over the place, and staying up late and such. But it hasn't stopped, me from kind of pursuing other projects or talking about, or just being on talks like this. So there's a lot of development going on right now. Without being able to go out and actually be in production, people are still developing shows, they're developing projects, and I've had an opportunity to be invited to hopefully work on a couple of things. So, and then Nicole and I have been really, been really working hard on our impact campaign. So, anyway, when you have a disability like I do, I was born with spinal bifida, and I'm 64 years old. I could probably stand to lose a couple of pounds. Everybody's vulnerable could get the virus. But the question is, if you get it, is how life-threatening is that going to be? And so, for me, it's I do worry a lot about just going out, and have tried to limit my time outside.
Yeah, I hear you. So I want to talk a little bit about obviously a lot about the film. It's great. You guys worked together prior to working on this project. I know it was sort of a personal story for Jim. What was it about the story that struck you? Like, I want to take this on as my next feature.
Well, really it was Jim. It was knowing Jim for years, and Jim and I have been colleagues for a long time. And he took me out to lunch and said he wanted to pitch me on some ideas that he thought perhaps he could co-produce, and I could direct about stories that he had not been seeing people tell out of disability and the disability experience and community. And we had a great lunch and we discussed a lot of different themes, but it was kind of this like, there's Jim and his wife, Sarah. Who want to co-produce with us? That's
my wedding photo. Thank you.
But basically we had this fantastic, conversation. And at the end of it, Jim said, but what I really always wanted to see was a story about my summer camp. And I said, why? And he started telling me this like magical kind of incredible story about, having been a kid with a disability in a time that where there really wasn't accessibility and where there was a lot of stigma. And then finding this hippie Valhalla of a summer camp down the road from Woodstock, and how that profound experience of liberation, he thought, had something to do with the disability rights movement, which came later. And for me, it was just pushing all my buttons, I love Jim. I'd been really intrigued by his activism and the kind of window that he opened for me on the disability experience. And I also, have explored a lot of themes around history and, movements. But I was really wanting a film that was fun and that dealt with, kind of music and humor and all of these things. And somehow this story, as Jim was telling it, just came into my mind as something that if we could pull it off would just be like irresistible and undeniable to people, and hopefully would shift the way people perceive people with disabilities. And that was like just a super exciting challenge to take on with a friend,
Savannah in Kingston, Jamaica has a question on disabilities. How did you think about working together as directors? So a question from Jamaica asking, how did you work together as directors on it? Was it divide and conquer? Did you have different like domains they were focused on, or it was really you guys were working on everything together? How did that work?
I think one of the things that I am so happy about and wish I could talk about for hours is about our collaboration. And that this is my first time directing and producing a film. And this is Nicole's fourth feature-length documentary, and let alone all the other wonderful things she's worked on. But I had the lived experience of disability. I had really, a sense of Nicole was kind of saying that, I could provide the North Star on the story. So I've also worked in documentary films for over 20 years as a sound mixer. And so I knew a bit about documentaries, and that's how Nicole and I first became friends, was my mixing on her films and sound designing. So I think we complemented each other, and we listened to each other, and we trusted each other. And some people might say it's magic. I think that it is because of who both of us are in regards to really caring about our craft, and that what we do is so important, and how we regarded each other and how important the story was to us.
I agree. I mean, it's interesting. It's like Jim had this very, very unusual and kind of difficult position in that he was co-directing a film that he was also in that was about his life story. And so I think it was really helpful to have like the world's greatest expert on that experience and that story, Jim, always in the kit room. And likewise, we found it was also very helpful to have someone with an outside perspective, I think also being there. And so if to the extent that we maybe split things up, it was like, I would take a crack at things based on Jim's North Star of what were we trying to get across? What was Jim passionate about trying to communicate to people? It wasn't just like, here's what the story was. It was like, how can we embed in this film the things that have been painful for people with disabilities, for us non-disabled people not to understand, Like, what are the things that are like really critical that people have kind of aha moments around? And how can we take this material and this story and kind of figure out a way to make people have those kinds of aha moments for themselves, and also make a film that, like, not only for like non-disabled people to have aha moments, but for people with disabilities to finally see things that are true and things that are like fully, fleshed out and real, so that all of us at the end of the film end up feeling like this film, portrays disability as part of just the spectrum of human existence, and people don't see it in the stigmatized way that it's usually served up to them in the media. And so I think that's one of the things that we take a lot of pride and joy in, frankly, about this collaboration, is that I think we were undaunted in our desire to make a film that could do all of that. And it was only, I think, really through our collaboration that we were able to do it in the way that we did.
I want to ask also about your impact campaign, which I find, first of all, the film is brilliant, and it's amazing that you're sharing this narrative in such a gripping way. Talk a little bit about the impact campaign and how this film can be artivism in a way, right? And sort of inspiring change we want to see in the world. How is that being manifest in the impact campaign that you had planned?
Yeah, I think that one of our goals of the film was to kind of reframe how people with and without disabilities thought about disability, and that has been kind of a really important thing. And I think the impact campaign certainly was this opportunity to have conversations and to really talk about things. And I think that we also realized that that we were probably going to get a good amount of attention. And where did we want that to lie? And we really, the modern day disability rights movement is really based in disability justice, and that is really kind of looking at disability rights through the lens of people who have been marginalized in the disabled community, people of color, Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ, and so our impact campaign was something that, when we hired the manager, it became managers, and two women that were deeply embedded in that community, who also are and we're brilliant people.
And I see that, yeah. We're getting some nerdy questions from Albert and Mobile, so I'll send those to you, Nicole, wanting to know about the craft, what kind of cameras you shot on, what did you edit in, and walk us through sort of the mechanics of balancing the vintage footage with new shooting.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jim, maybe you remember the cameras better than I do. We worked on a variety of cameras. I mean, we shot digitally, and we really cared about trying to make sure that we could work with cameras, and that's why I'm trying to remember the exact model of the Sony camera that we used. That was a handheld, shoulder-mounted camera, which is fairly unusual these days. Actually, to find people who want to go around and shoot verite footage on their shoulder, but we really wanted the footage that we shot that was not the archival footage shot at the camp to blend with that footage. And it was really important to us that it kind of had that same feel. So there was sort of a feeling of continuity between the camp footage from 1971 and the footage that we shot, of people in their daily lives going around Berkeley and people when they came back to the camp. And I think sometimes in documentaries, there will be this sort of historical footage, and then there will be people kind of like, you know, in some studio, and it's really lit and it really separates it from the environment. But we were really looking to tell a story that was about the full kind of continuous sweep of people's lives. And also that felt like a group of close friends gathering and you know, kind of telling their community story to each other. So it had to have a very intimate kind of natural feel. So we worked a lot with natural lighting, and we just tried very hard to kind of not make the current day footage stand out. We were able to work with extraordinary editors, and who helped us kind of really devise a language for how did we make this massive transition in the film from the first part, where it's this footage shot by a radical video coalition that Jim remembered had visited the camp in '71, and you just feel like you're there and you're immersed in the camp with the campers. And then it becomes basically a story where we're finding our people who we met at camp, that was like our breakfast club section, where you know, you meet all the teenagers and you get to know them and fall in love with them, and then you follow them through time. But now we're seeing them in news footage that's been shot of the various political events that they were a part of. And so to be able to pull off that hat trick of kind of like the shift in perspective, but still feel like you're following your friends through history was very tricky. And we did it with a lot of trial and error and a lot of commitment and conversation with the amazing editorial team that we had.
Right. I also have a question about the, you know, I was unaware of the disability movement. I mean, and maybe I'm just ignorant, but I feel like it's not taught in history courses, or is not, you kind of get to the civil rights movement and then it's like, okay. So this is such a contribution to the civil discourse and sort of recent American history, this film, because I feel it sort of fills in the blank of things people don't really know about, a movement that, at least in my case, I didn't know much about. Have you found that this is a gap in education in America about the disability rights movement? And also, what reform do you want to see? I know this is the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disability Act. Does that need to be strengthened or enhanced in any way? And what would that be?
There's a lot of answers that could be gotten there. You know, your second question about the ADA, I think that civil rights protections have been under attack for people with disabilities ever since it came out, and we're still seeing major real threats simply in cases that are winding their way to the Supreme Court right now in regards to pre-existing conditions under the Affordable Care Act. So, you know, the fight really just kind of does continue. I'm going to ask you, can you just repeat, or Nicole, do you want to handle the first question? I'm sorry,
No, that's okay. So the first question was about why hasn't this story been told?
Well, the gap in I don't think the story. Yeah, exactly. So why? Go ahead.
I mean, I feel very passionately about that because, like, the more we looked into this story, I mean, you know, there have the 504 sit-in, the story of disability civil rights has been told. There have been other documentaries about it, you know, some of which have been quite good, but nothing has really cracked through to kind of like the mainstream public awareness. And we found in talking to people while we were making the film, even people like my husband, who lived, you know, 10 blocks away and was, you know, in his teenage years when the sit-in happened, you know, was not aware that it was happening. You know, it's been a very underappreciated and very ignored story, because I think that the kind of story that people want to tell themselves about how the ADA happened and how disability civil rights laws came to be is that we generously decided out of the good of our hearts to give something to people, because people are so used to seeing disability in this sort of charity model. And the narrative that actually, no, people with disabilities fought this massive civil rights battle that, you know, is an incredible story of kind of like the power of Americans coming together and leveraging our democracy to push ourselves towards, towards a better country, was actually that was a long fought, fiercely fought battle by people with disabilities to gain those rights. And so so for us, it was so important that we could make a film that would crack through. And luckily Jim went to this incredibly funny, amazing radical revolutionary summer camp that kind of provided the platform to lure people in and I think engage them with the story. But it's really a shame that it's not better known, and we really hope that the film is going to help ensure that when history books are rewritten, that there's the mention and the due that's deserved for this movement.
I mean, I think that the people are, when people think about the disabled, they don't think about us as a community necessarily or a culture. And and a lot of my friends, we identify culturally. We have common experiences around our disability. And so having a culture, you have your history. And I think that people have not really recognized that we are a significant constituency. So what history? You're talking about people in wheelchairs or blind people? Is it about doctor's appointments? I mean, what is it about? No, this is and as Nicole alluded to, the ADA was not just handed to us; we fought for it. So I think that when people realize that there's a lot of us out there that are very politically motivated and active, and we are a community that I'm really proud of the fact that I'm a member of this community, that they'll realize that our history is important also. And it's not just so that you can kind of, okay, now the people with disabilities, we need to learn their history. Our history is important for everybody else to know. You look at our film, and one of the wonderful things that I think about our film is that there are blueprints in here about how to be an activist. It's proof that you can take on the system and change things. And so that's why nobody knows this story. A lot of people say, "Yeah, I'm embarrassed I didn't know it." Well, nobody thought that it was worth telling.
I'll let you go. I just want to acknowledge, Jim, you're a prolific sound editor and mixer. I want to ask you about the music for this film, and Barry McCrary's great work. Why him? How did you think about marrying the moving image with the sound? And walk me through the decision making on the music side.
I had the good fortune of working with Bear on a great documentary called Unrest by Jim Brea, who's another filmmaker with a disability. But we went through certainly a period of trying to figure out who we would want to be the composer, and then the soundtrack itself was really kind of a group effort. There's music that I said, "Oh, we got to use this. We're going to use this," and Nicole had her things, and Andy Gersh, had was it Nicole? Was it an Andy or who came up with Freedom, or was that you?
That was
you. Okay, and Sugar Mountain was yours, and it's just like, and even the kind of the end of Camp, we were really hoping to get Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones, and it just didn't work out. But yet this Bob Dylan song wound up feeling so natural and so wonderful. So, if it was, it had been left up to me, man, probably, well, I'm joking, but I'm really happy where we landed. I mean, I'm wearing my Grateful Dead t-shirt. Enough said, all right?
For the
Can you hear him, Jim?
You're breaking up a little bit, Lottie.
Yeah, a little bit. I was saying the film is beautiful. The music is beautiful. You both are beautiful. Thanks for making such an inspiring story. I think everyone really needs to see that. I'll put the website up on the screen, cripcamp.com. You can see it on Netflix, of course. But thanks for being on the show. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have two luminaries in the space on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's our show today. keep subscribed to the social media to be notified on our next shows. And of course, keep taking care of the art because the art takes care of us. Good night, everyone.